And
Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast, the place where we share the truth about food and farming from our kitchen to yours. I should say our studio to yours. Not everyone has a studio.
okay.
I'm your host, Liz Hazelmeyer, along with my husband, Joey.
Good evening.
It's nighttime.
Yes.
And together we hope to inspire, educate, and equip you in your pursuit of true nourishment. And today we are going to be talking about some of the ways that we have changed our opinion when it comes to our nourishment and some of the topics that honestly we have taken a second look at.
Changing your opinion's good.
I think it's good. I think it's healthy.
I feel like if you think about it, this is how we got here in the first place.
Totally.
If you're not in a place where you're willing to change your opinion. And it's like knowing that we might and will likely, as we're on this pursuit and this journey, change our opinion more.
Yeah.
As we continue to learn and investigate new things. But before we get started, talk to me about the future of Homegrown, some of the things we're working on.
Yeah, so we made a big announcement this week over on Instagram and via email, if you're on our email list, and that is that we are no longer going to be selling physical books. Right here, we got our stack of our OG First Forever curriculum.
Emphasis on the physical.
The physical. I was going to get there.
Okay.
Our What's for Dinner, physical. Our What's for Breakfast, which is just like a really bougie, beautiful magazine combined with like delicious, nourishing food. It's just so beautiful. And then our coloring book. And so we're going to transition to digital goods. We are selling through all of our current inventory, and that will be the case. And you'll be able to purchase those physical goods until June 15th.
All very printable.
All very printable, yeah. So we'll still have our downloadable PDFs available for purchase forevermore. Those are not going away. Those are not increasing in price. They're the same. But honestly, it came down to a really hard decision. And Joey and I recorded a short little video talking about that. You know, it's kind of like an end of an era for me because we started out shipping physical books. And for us, print costs continue to rise. We had to basically say either we continue to increase our costs and our price to our customers, or we let them print on their own. Mm-hmm. And so that's the route we're going. Also, piggybacking off of that, we're excited to launch some more forms of content. YouTube.
If you're looking at us right now.
Probably on YouTube.
Here we are.
A blog on our website where we will have written content for y'all, because as much as I love Instagram, the community, and we're still staying there, we're still enjoying that, but it's not searchable. So you can't, I get DMs all day, every day. Like, I know you did a post on this, but, and I'm like, I wish I had a place to send you that was searchable. So we're working on those two avenues. We've got some other fun stuff up our sleeves. And speaking of products, we also have shoptheh.com, which is our Hazelmeyer Goods shop home care for the naturally minded family. And we just launched body care over there.
Along with an exfoliating sponge.
An emphasis on exfoliating.
I mean, the first time I tried it, I was like, it's like that weird itch that when you scratch it, it kind of hurts, but it feels really good.
See, it doesn't hurt me. It reminds me of the sensation of using a dry brush.
I think women that I've encountered are more in the exfoliating game than men are.
We've done it a time or two.
Would you agree that that's a fact?
Yeah, we're used to it. I think men are like, whoa, something scratchy.
At first it felt a little scratchy.
I'm sorry.
But it was like good scratchy. I don't know. It's like, I was like, man, I feel like I'm really getting clean. Yeah. And
you're removing really dead skin cells, you're improving circulation, you're brightening your skin because you're getting rid of that extra layer of dullness. So it's great.
It definitely, the exfoliating sponge and the body soap make you feel outstanding.
The combo, because the body soap is scented and infused with certified organic peppermint essential oil, so it's kind of tingly. Yeah. It's kind of cooling, and it's also got organic turmeric in it, which is another substance that's going to support that glow, that glowy skin. So we're loving it. So go over to shoptheh.com to check out.
All kinds of things over there too. So we'll talk about it more at the end of this show. Definitely get over there. But speaking of products, even furthermore, what are some of the things that we have changed our minds on? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
So there's three main things we're hitting today. And I think I want to start with the big heavy hitter. And this isn't a product so much, but it is the term organic.
Yeah. I mean, it's on products.
It's on products. And, I think we've had so many conversations about organic on this show with guests, and just you and me. We did a whole podcast together on what the USDA organic label means. And it's one of those terms where when you're first entering into the real food space, it's such an easy grab to just say, okay, well, at least I'm purchasing organic.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that that can be beneficial to a certain degree. But at some point, the organic label has gotten misconstrued. And I think the biggest misconception around organic, even something that I held for many years prior to doing Homegrown, was that the food was just inherently healthier.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's organic, it's healthy. And I think that has been the biggest glass shattering for us. And that's considering we still purchase a lot of things organic, but organic means something different to us. Organic does not mean the food is healthier or that we are inherently doing something better for our bodies.
And I think one of the ways we learn this is talking to a lot of producers, a lot of farmers, a lot of people that are growing things, and ask them the question straight up, what does organic mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are like, nothing. It doesn't mean anything to me. And that was confusing to me, right? As a consumer,
Right.
Because we're over here thinking that organic is like the, peak of health food. If I walk into a grocery store and it's got that USDA sticker on it, that is the best thing that I can be buying for myself and for my family.
Yeah.
And I think what it really it comes down to for these producers and farmers is that this is a process and a protocol that I have to follow, or it's a fee, it's a sum of money that I have to pay in order to be allowed to use the stamp on my whatever I'm producing,
Mm-hmm.
right? My cattle, my beef, my chicken, my whatever, right? And then kind of going even deeper into that and understanding more about like mass production of organic. There's so many things going on there that aren't like natural, and you can still have like organic food or meat that comes off of like a feedlot, right? There's still organic vegetables that can be, raised in mass production monocrop situations. I think for me, the way I'm looking at organic these days, right, is through a lens of I don't live on a homestead.
Yeah.
And there are things that I want to avoid in my life that the organic label in some cases identifies as, or at least claims to be free from. Those things being like glyphosate, right? And if I'm trying to avoid glyphosate in my regular diet on a regular basis, then seeking out an organic vegetable might be a better option.
Or grain for that example.
Correct.
Right.
And that is different. So now when you walk into the grocery store, there's so much food that whether you buy it organic or not is just junk.
Yeah.
That is so true. You can find organic granola bars or like you can find organic junk food.
90% of the quote organic crackers, packaged food, trail mix, all of that all contain highly processed seed oils, even though they're quote organic.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating because if you're trying to avoid canola, safflower, sunflower oil for the high omega-6 fatty acids, and some is just like the poor quality of the high processing, they're all in there.
Yeah.
Because of course they're cheaper options. Now they're certified organic, but again, certified organic, 1, doesn't mean regenerative, and 2, doesn't mean healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that look like for us? I still buy organic produce when it makes sense economically.
And so why? Why do you buy organic produce? So
for me, it's twofold, right? Because I'm also kind of done with the dirty dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did a lot of interesting research on the whole dirty dozen concept with it. If you're not familiar with it, the EWG puts out this list of the dirty dozen. We talk about it, I think, in our organic episode. It's basically the crops that have the most pesticide residues. And if you're going to buy organic, you should buy these organic because they're the dirtiest, right? But if you break down how that research is done, you realize that even the highest amount of residues is still either 100 or 1,000 times lower than the EPA's kind of threshold for everyday chronic use to impact our physiology. So there's like two things there, right? So like the food scientists like to say pesticides are fine and safe all the time, doesn't matter. For me, I'm like, I understand caution when we're talking about agrochemicals because as Will Harris told us on his episode, this is new, right? World War II opened up this new thing. We even look at how all of the names of these herbicides, pesticides are, they're war-based. It's a new concept. We didn't have these chemical-based inputs, these fertilizers, these herbicides, these fungicides, all of these things, right? But on the other side, you look at chronic exposure, and we can kind of determine what's healthy. And for me, I'm like, I break it down to practicality, right? Pineapple, I can't even get an organic pineapple at our Kroger, and I'm cutting off the outside. I truthfully don't know what it looks like to grow to grow an organic or a conventional pineapple. I'm not really sure like what's commonly used there. Keep in mind, organic farming still uses pesticides and herbicides, just a different type.
They just look different.
I heard a story one time about a man. It was in a book I read, and it was about this guy that came across a banana farm, and he saw them covered in like what looked like a hazmat suit. He said, "Why are they all covered head to toe?" They're like, "Oh, well, those are like conventional bananas that they're farming, and the chemicals used on them are so toxic they have to cover themselves, and then they end up being chronically ill anyway." So the guy in the book says, from that point on, I always bought organic bananas. Banana is the same thing where you can peel it. You're not so worried about pesticide residues in the actual fruit that you're consuming. But for me, I like to look at it through that lens, right? So how does the farming practice impact the producer? I'll never forget when Will Harris said the worst example of animal welfare he had ever witnessed with his own two eyes was on an organic dairy. So I believe you can have a conventional, quote, factory farm dairy and practice good animal welfare if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you can also have an certified organic situation and not follow those rules. So it's just the biggest...
Not treat the animals well. That's basically what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you can be using organic practices and not treat animals well. And that concept is very easy to grasp.
The animal welfare, right? Like how you mentioned earlier, where if we're talking about chickens and pigs, right?
You can be
they can still be in confinement. Totally. They're just fed organic feed. Maybe not fed antibiotics because that's under the label. So there's certain elements. So to get back to your question, why do I still buy it? Well, one, the glaring thing in the room for me is that we still have this issue of the application of biosolids, which we talked about. We talked about this whole concept of some of the wastewater treatment facility solids that pass through your city or town's processing plant, gets kind of reimagined as fertilizer and then applied to agricultural land. And there's some issues with that because they've tested super high for PFAS and all sorts of other things. And the regulation around that is really poor. And so that is not allowed in organic farming. An organic farm for produce cannot be applied with sewage sludge or biosolids. So there's one thing. What you mentioned earlier is the glyphosate, especially when it comes to our grains. I don't want them desiccated. I don't want them covered in them. I don't want my oats to have any residues of that. We're going to avoid glyphosate at all costs. And to avoid the GMOs, because we don't want GMOs in our life. That's a decision that we've made. We don't want to, for me, it feels a little bit like Russian roulette. And I've seen and heard enough anecdotal evidence to say, I'll pause on that.
Yeah. It's more of like a hesitancy as I see it for GMOs.
Let's give it 20 years.
It's less of a,
see what another 20 years brings.
I have learned this fact about GMOs, therefore I won't eat them. And more of a, it's almost like a, if you don't know a lot about something that's synthetic, I'm already a little bit weary of that thing being put into my body in some capacity. So, especially
if it's new.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the 1990s. It's so new. It's as new as I am.
It's also easy enough to avoid. I think that's also where it comes down to. If it was like putting my life in severe disarray, just crazy dishevelment to try to avoid GMOs, and I didn't really know anything about them and or whether or not they were like an issue,
It would be hard.
That wouldn't be. I don't feel like that would be a very sustainable practice.
I agree. The other thing about GMOs is that they're constantly creating new ones.
Yeah.
So in 2020, a new GMO was on the market, 2021. So like we've got new GMOs that people probably are not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pink pineapple variety now that is sold
Is
in the
there
US market. Yeah.
I've never seen it.
So yeah, so that's why I buy organic now. One, there's a piece of me that's still, I haven't gone to the strawberry farm. I don't know. Maybe the conventional strawberries, which I do buy on occasion. I would like to believe that a portion of what's going on in these organic farms has some element of sustainability and regenerative in mind, but that's not always the case. And also it helps me pare down some of my things that I'm trying to avoid.
I think at the end of the day with organic, and then we can move on, is having an understanding of what organic means to us and what it means to producers, how to attain an organic label, the worst case scenario organic and the best case scenario organic.
Yeah.
Knowing all of that as much as we possibly can. Go if you haven't listened to those episodes, go find all the episodes we did with farmers. Go find all the episodes we did with like the Rodale Institute, with Will Harris, with John's Farm, like Chris. Go listen to these Natalie from. Go listen to these episodes. We did a whole podcast on the USDA. We did a podcast episode on what organic means. Go listen to those episodes. Collect that data. Make a decision for yourself. Because I think at the end of the day, I walk into the grocery store and I'm trying to just do the best that we can with the financial backing that we have. So how much money do we have to spend on food, plus the resources available to us. I walk into grocery stores often. We definitely source as much as we can. I want to get there a little bit from other avenues that we trust more, right? Mm-hmm. Best case scenario for us is less of does it have an organic label and more of do we know the farmer and where it's being grown. And we do have some access to that, but then there's some seasonality in that, right? We have 3 kids. We need to eat food every day to survive. That's reality. And we don't live in a world where all of our food can be produced in the city that we live in for now. Maybe someday we'll have property and this is what our life will look like. But we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. And that's with resources and with availability. So when we go to the grocery store, I'm looking at one piece of produce and another. I think, okay, this zucchini is $1. The organic one is $1.19. Yeah,
that is a no-brainer.
I'm going to buy the $1.19 organic one.
Totally.
And you know what? If someone really were to grill me and be like, what like, do you think this is going to be better for your body? Like, at the very least, I'm driving demand away from conventional farming. Mm-hmm. And conventional farming, what I mean by that is a high use, because conventional is a term that it's unfortunate because it just kind of means normal, mm-hmm. right? And what we mean when we say that is essentially I'm trying to cast a vote away from people using high amounts of synthetic pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, all the sides, right?
The sides. You know what this is making me think of, actually? Because part of my gut reaction to that is like, well, if we're driving all this demand towards USDA certified organic, we heard from Will Harris himself that talks about how certification is an industry of its own. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a dark industry. So I almost wish that through this consumer tension, and I guess it's just knowing your producer, but I wish there could be another thing born out of it. Like, I don't believe the U.S. government regulation is always going to be flawless. In fact, I know it's very much the opposite of flawless. And I also don't believe, and this is what I wanted to say about the whole organic situation, I don't believe the option is if you can't afford organic, don't buy the fresh produce. You buy the fresh produce because you know that that is good, nourishing food for you, whether or not it has a USDA label on it.
Well, what's the alternative? I feel like whenever someone is
studies have shown that people will go for packaged foods.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you're avoiding fresh produce, you're going for packaged foods.
Don't do that.
What are we doing? It's like that. That's not the play, right? And it's
not the play. But there's, I think, a certain level of fear around a quote conventionally grown we're talking about produce here. We haven't even really gotten into animal agriculture except for a couple comments. But for me, I guess that's as clear as day. Like, if you're shopping in the grocery store and in your mind you've been drilled into this USDA organic label or nothing. I remember I had a friend ask me, do you think I should go to the grocery store and get the USDA organic produce, or should I buy the produce from our local farm that's not certified USDA organic? Perfect example. I said local farm.
Well, the first thing I would do is, because yes, I would have gut reaction said that, but like, the local farm is a perfect opportunity to go see the farm. Yeah. Right. And if you show up to the farm, and you look around at what they're doing, and you think, and you, I mean, I wouldn't go grill the farmer and be like, what pesticides are you using? But if you can identify to some reasonable extent that the practices they're doing are in line with the way you want to eat food, that's it. That's it. That's the best way to buy food. The best way to buy.
I think that goes for conventional too. If you walk on a quote conventional farm, I just mean any food producer, walk on their property.
Totally. Yeah.
If it's possible.
If you're able to walk onto a farm and the practices they're using align with the way you want to nourish your family, that's the best way to buy any kind of food.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what I haven't changed my opinion on in terms of organic is I will continue to purchase organic grains. Grains are just something for me where that is honestly, I would prioritize organic grain. And
so why is that?
Well, I mean, people want to say glyphosate is used as a desiccant, and then others will say, no, it's not. I don't know anyone who does that. But at the end of the day, when we test our food, we're seeing high residues of glyphosate in all of the grain-based products, right? The oats and the cereals and the wheat products. So for me, I want my wheat flour to be certified organic. I want it to be traceable. I want it to be heritage grain. There's other things beyond just organic. It's not USDA organic because frankly, it's not grown in the US. It's grown in Canada. But I do want that kind of, it's about finding a piece of language that both you and the farmer can both understand. Yeah. Is the real thing. And I wish there was something other than the term organic because there's a tension point there.
We've learned a lot about this, and I think we still have more to learn. I love that we are not in a situation where we're walking through life looking at labels with just 100% trust, because time has shown us that there are so many labels. I mean, look at a Honey Nut Cheerios box. Mm-hmm. Heart healthy. It's like, in what way? Yeah. What does this do for my heart? The sugar? Is it the sugar that helps my heart, or is it the grains? Anyways, I look at that kind of stuff and I think to myself,
it's the low fat, Joe. Come on, everyone knows.
Anyways, it's crazy town. So love that. Talk to me about sugar. So moving away from organic, talk to me about what our opinions look like sugar these days.
Okay, so here's another one where
sweetener.
I previously would have fallen in the camp that was like, any opportunity I get to use any type of sweetener outside of traditional cane sugar or sugar beets. When you think of sugar, granulated sugar, I would take it. I'm like, give me the maple syrup, give me the honey, give me the date sugar, give me the coconut sugar, monk fruit extra. I mean, that I didn't personally use that, but I know a lot of people do. That kind of gets into the sugar alcohol thing. But all of these kind of quote natural sweeteners are really touted as the better option in the real food space. And I understand it's because you can go tap your maple tree and boil it down, the sap, and you get the maple. Feels very,
you feel closer to
A
it.
plus B equals C.
Yeah.
But when I did a lot of research on this whole glucose situation, and I wore a monitor on my arm, and I really realized how my body reacts to specific carbohydrates, I realized that whether it's cane sugar or maple syrup, my blood sugar spikes just the same. And so it was like a freeing moment where it's like, oh man, I don't want to use half a cup of this maple syrup that cost me $21 at the store. Think about how much maple syrup we used to go through. And instead, I'm going to use this beautiful cane sugar because it's going in a cookie anyways. Like, who cares? We bake delicious sourdough chocolate chip cookies. Sometimes they're not sourdough because my kids are weird about that. I prefer the sourdough ones. But when I'm sweetening a cookie, I'm going to put cane sugar in it unless there's an element of the maple flavor I want to add, or the honey I want to add, like honey in a cake, honey's in a bread. Maple syrup and whipping cream is just easier because it doesn't have to dissolve crystals. So for me, it came down to, like, I used to focus on the type of sugar, and instead now I focus on the amount of sugar. Because if we are fooling ourselves thinking that our little iced coffee in the summer with our raw milk and our certified organic coffee, which is a whole other thing, and our
should be buying Hazelmark Goods coffee. Let's be real.
And our tablespoon of maple syrup is blessing our bodies. It is. I will stand here to say it maybe bless your soul, but not your body.
Yeah.
Because unless you've had, some sort of other food along with that, maybe you just ate a high protein snack or you had some plant fiber or something, your blood sugar will go through the roof, and then you will have a crash so hard and you'll think, wow, maybe it's just a caffeine crash. No, it's a sugar crash. And so for me, or both.
Well, I was going to say maybe both.
For me, I like that realization that all sugar is naturally derived. Now, we're putting aside artificial sweetener. I'm not talking about artificial sweeteners because we stay away from those anyways. But when we're talking about what goes on the pedestal, it used to be the maple syrup and the honey and the date sugar. And let me develop a recipe with all of these other sugars.
What was the initial thought behind that?
For me or for everyone?
Anyone.
I mean, I think for me, it was something I just picked up in this idea of, well, if it's naturally derived, it's better for me.
So is it just like mob mentality of like someone out there said, don't use cane sugar, use maple syrup, and everyone went kind of nuts for it?
I feel like...
Or is there any kind of data? Because I feel like that's where I don't know. I don't have like data to fall back into.
I'm not sure where that assumption comes from. I feel like my friends in the Weston A. Price community kind of fell in that like sugar is bad, but like natural sweeteners are fine. And then I read the Glucose Revolution, and then I actually monitored my glucose, which I think is the very most finite piece of data I have.
So for your body, for sure, we know.
For sure.
And we would...
it acts the same.
And we would... and some other testing we've done, and like the way that I've felt at least, we've identified that for us, there doesn't seem to be a major difference in the way our body receives and reacts to cane sugar to maple syrup to honey.
Right.
Now, are we avoiding all of it? No, that's not what we're doing. But we're just more conscious of the fact that in any scenario, if you overindulge on sugar, it is not a good thing for you.
Yeah.
At all, period. If you're waking up in the morning and you have a piece of sourdough bread with
a little maple syrup in your coffee,
butter and honey on it, and then you put maple syrup in your coffee, you're in a situation where you've probably just had all these like natural things, and you've just absolutely slammed your blood sugar through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to feel great like as you eat that because you're on this sugar high and this caffeine's coming into your veins. And oh my gosh, then throughout the day, you're going to be craving more carbs. You're going to be feeling like sluggish and tired, and you're not going to really know why. So you're going to go for more caffeine. You're probably going to put more maple syrup in your coffee. And next thing you know, right? Like this is what happens.
Yeah, it's totally what happens.
It's you really want to set yourself up well by, and you talked about this before, and this is something I definitely have identified we have changed and started doing differently. And that's that we have begun eating food in different order, right? So it's like the order of operations has changed. And so having something, is it fibrous and or protein rich to start, and then walking into something that's more carb heavy or focused.
You got to build your net before you throw some sugar down the hatch.
So ideal macro lineup. Are we talking protein, fat, carb in that order?
Yeah, if those are, if we're just talking macros, right? Because you're not counting fiber in there. So, yeah, you're talking protein and fat and then your carbohydrate. Another wonderful strategy is to use plant fibers. And a lot of times, I guess I would segue into the next thing I've kind of unlearned actually too, is that like, there's a big campaign against plant foods. As much as there's a big campaign against animal foods, the carnivore movement will flat out tell you that you do not need any plant source foods. In fact, they can be harmful to you, which is interesting. And I think that they're also coming from a lens of like, I've only ever seen it. I've seen a couple women in this, but never, not enough. I think it's mostly men, and they're usually pretty jacked, and it seems to be really...
You talk about the carnivore situation?
Yeah.
I feel like I see a decent amount of women.
Do you?
I mean, like...
For long periods of time and throughout their motherhood? Because that was the thing I was going to say. I've never seen them who have carried into...
I guess what I mean is like, I don't see like tons of women that do all carnivore, but I will say, because I don't see a ton of carnivore in general, like I see some, I feel like it's just evenly split for me. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, and I'm still not saying like go eat a raw Brussels sprout, right? Like I'm going to be mindful of which vegetation I'm eating raw and how I'm eating it and how it's prepared and properly and all these things. Mm-hmm. But my goodness, I felt liberation to not feel guilty about eating a salad. I think that's another piece too, is like we went from, gone with the big salads of the 90s and we're eating for volume and we're tricking our body into thinking that we're eating a bunch, but there's really low calorie because it's a bunch of vegetation, to now we're going to eat really, really rich, satiating foods, nutrient dense, right? That term that we love around here too. And it kind of did like a pendulum swing for me. And I feel like I've met in the middle where I'm like, I enjoy a good salad and I have zero guilt around that. I actually enjoy I feel better when I start my meals off with plant fiber, even if it's like a raw carrot or some cooked green beans, or, you can get into roasted veg, but if they're starchy, then that's really kind of your carb. But haven't you felt that a little bit?
I don't always do that. Maybe I should start doing it more to kind of feel what you're feeling. I oftentimes can just jump right into protein.
No, I just mean in terms of like the whole conversation around plant food.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've definitely seen that.
I'm into the salads. I'm going to be honest. And maybe that's controversial. Or like even fermented veg. Great example. A spoonful of sauerkraut before you eat your dinner. I've never felt better.
I love sauerkraut with breakfast.
I love sauerkraut with breakfast too. And it's in what's for breakfast is how much I love it. So I think we kind of hit two there, right? We no longer feel bad about consuming cane sugar, but we also recognize that sugar or carb in any capacity needs to have parameters. And with that, we've been able to balance our sugar intake with an increase of plant foods. Ones that I at one point was like, why do I need to eat a salad again? Like I just need to have the most nutrient dense food at all time. And then I was like, the salad actually is serving my body by providing fiber and other things.
How was it that Diana Rogers said it? It's not your birthday, something like this.
Yeah.
It was her way of saying like you probably shouldn't eat cake every day,
or like massive amounts of carbs in general.
Like it's not your birthday. It was kind of the thought.
Yeah, it's not your birthday. Is her post. That was a great episode.
And the reason why that's a good thought is that it's also kind of saying like, listen, if it's your birthday or like a special occasion,
go for it.
You can have like that's the whole point of what we're doing here. Food education is the way to food freedom. Food freedom doesn't mean like I don't eat sugar anymore.
Right, that wouldn't be very free.
That's very restrictive. The freedom is I know exactly what I'm putting in my body and how it's affecting me and how I can keep myself operating and performing the way that I want to be. Speaking of which,
the heavy hitter.
I was training for a marathon. I ran a marathon.
You did. Congrats on that.
We did it.
You did great.
I should have brought the medal with me now that we're on video. I should have just worn it.
Oh, that would have been so
just
sweet.
Like, look at my medal. But didn't do that. Anyways.
Some might view that as obnoxious.
I would also think that was obnoxious. Anyways.
You're training for a marathon.
Training for a marathon. And it's funny how naturally, as I was training for this marathon, naturally, very naturally, I began reaching for and avoiding things in my life to optimize my own performance and to avoid anything that was going to give me like bad off days. I didn't want to have off days. I wanted to have only on days. And a quick glimpse into that for all of you out there that haven't run a marathon or trained for one. I was running 6 days a week. That would add up to, those 6 days would add up to roughly 40-ish, 44 to 38 in that realm miles a week. And then I was lifting once a week, and I would have one rest day that was on Monday. And then I was incrementally increasing my Sunday runs, my long run days, until it eventually hit 22 miles. And so I ran 22 miles on a Sunday and then tapered off, saving up energy for the day of the marathon. And a marathon, for those of you that don't know, is 26.2 miles.
You felt every bit of that.
I felt every bit of it. So all these training days meant that there was no... rarely, I had like a rest day, right? And rest day felt very much like another training day in the sense that it was recovery. I had to be fueling myself with large amounts of protein, being very hydrated, eating lots of healthy fats, just I felt that. And eating a ton of junk food, it always felt like I was losing an opportunity to like help myself heal and recover. Now, again, I know this sounds really crazy, but like I wanted to do the best that I could. And I always felt like junk food of some kind or a beer, right? I always felt it on my next run. I could always tell like, oh man, you know what? That, that glass of wine or that
Sabbath
beer,
wine.
I could feel it, right? And the really kind of crazy thing was that like, I very naturally decided I didn't want to drink alcohol anymore because I could tell that it was not something. I mean, I don't know anyone out there other than the people that are like, well, the antioxidants in wine are really good for you. If you have a glass of wine,
Which has kind of been debunked, if we're going to be honest. If
you have a glass of wine before bed at night, you're going to sleep better. It's like, well, yeah, no, duh.
No, the opposite is true, to be fair. But
anyways, you wake up and you're sweating. Those kinds of things happen. So I have nothing against people that drink. I still enjoy alcohol, at least I think so. And definitely welcome anybody that comes into our home that wants to drink. That is totally a thing. I just don't drink anymore. And maybe I will again. I haven't, this isn't like a final, like, goodbye or it's just, as soon as I kind of got to this place where I want to perform as this runner, this athlete, this marathon runner, I want to lift, I'm competitive. I want to beat my friends. Like there's just things that are at stake for me. Now that there's something at stake, I gave it up. And it's so funny as I look back on my career as a college soccer player or as a wrestler, and it was the same thing when I was in college. And people also say things like, I'm not the kind of person I gave up alcohol, but I drink Diet Coke all day long. So like, I think there's so many things that can give you, like an off day, right? And I don't go eat like half a gallon of ice cream before I go to bed. I just don't do that. I don't drink like 3 Mountain Dews and then think that, well, I didn't have alcohol, so I'm better than someone else. That has nothing to do with it. It's all kind of in the same category.
Right.
Anyways, I did this and a couple months went by and you kind of followed suit and you were like, you know what? Hey, Joey's not drinking. I'll hop off the wagon.
I don't know the analogy.
Wagons typically refer to alcoholics, so we're just not going to go there. I don't think we ever had really a problem, but we definitely didn't ever have a problem. But we both kind of steered away from alcohol, and we've definitely been. I've been off for what, like 3 months?
Maybe more than that.
More than that?
I followed suit, one, because I feel like we had already kind of cut back in our consumption. We were only really drinking wine on Friday nights anyways, or maybe like a casual cocktail on the weekend. And then I was like, well, this isn't any fun drinking by myself.
I'm such a lame husband.
It was not fun. I will tell you, I really enjoy having a glass of wine, like with my parents or with others who come over and hang out, and I don't feel any weirdness. But I listened to a very interesting podcast by the woman who wrote a book called Drinking Games. And it was, to be completely vulnerable and honest, it was a little convicting to me, because I think there were elements of my relationship with alcohol that I wanted to heal. Not that I felt like I had a problem or I was like, I need to stop drinking, but there were certain people in my life in certain environments where I felt so comfortable, and I just was like, you know what? I wish that I had a better grip on consuming alcohol in this age. And there were just times that I had realized like I wasn't serving my body well by drinking that cocktail, or by like staying up super late. It wasn't the right move. It wasn't the right play. And so when I saw you kind of not give up alcohol, but go into a fast, we'll call it a fast, just like you can fast in any other thing, it was encouraging to me, because I knew you were doing it for performance reasons, but I was not doing it for performance reasons. I was doing it for just that.
Mending a relationship.
Yeah, mending a relationship. And the really interesting thing for me too is, and just like to give context, I feel like I would have been the person that's like, oh, we're going to have a good time. Like, oh, let's have a really fun cocktail. It's my same relationship that used to be with food. Like, oh, we're going to have a really fun time. There has to be really amazing food there. And I just always meshed those two together.
And this is not to shame anyone, because I also think it's totally okay to, hey, we're celebrating, open a bottle of wine.
There's a celebratory element.
That is totally cool. Food
I agree.
and drink can absolutely be a celebratory thing, but you're saying that it became like a must-have, a non-negotiable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
the time wasn't as good. It wasn't as fun. It wasn't a celebration without it.
Or I started to believe, like, I'm not sure, with the exception of like my pregnancies, which I obviously didn't consume alcohol, I was like, well, you know, why wouldn't it enhance your experience? Was kind of my assumption. Like, why wouldn't a glass of really amazing clean wine, because that's the thing, is I kind of went into like the really clean alcohol, why wouldn't a glass of that enhance my experience? And then I did some more research and listened to a very fascinating podcast by Andrew Huberman on what alcohol does in the brain and the body. And I also listened to that Drinking Games episode, and I realized, wow, I think my life could be enhanced by also going on a fast. And so it felt like a weird emotional decision to say, like, hey, I'm going on a vacation in a couple months with a bunch of women that I'm really excited about, and there's for sure going to be alcohol there, like really clean, amazing stuff, and I'm going to choose to not drink it. And that might not make sense to anyone, but if it makes sense to you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's this like willing sobriety in a season of life to heal a relationship, but also just realize, like, I want to go away and find rest. And the best way I can do that is by treating my body the best way I can for those 4 days that I'm gone. And that's what it came down to. So it's not like performance in an athletic mindset. It's like life performance. And for me, that's just the season I'm in. I'm not sure when that's going to end or what that's going to look like, but alcohol is one thing for us that we are constantly evaluating, I think.
And I think there's definitely situations that I've already kind of conjured up in my brain of, would I have a drink? And I've already like kind of agreed to them. Right? Yeah. For instance, like a brother of mine has a baby and has people over to have a bourbon that they've been saving. There's no way I'm going to roll into that situation and be like, sorry guys, my body's too high performing. I can't have that. That's ridiculous. I would not do that. I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait. I'd be cheersing up. I mean, I might not have more than one. I for sure wouldn't, but at least I don't think I would. But I'm gonna celebrate and be with them. That's just that would be an awesome memory. I would love to do that. So I've thought of that. Things of that nature, experiences where it's or if like I was in Wyoming last year, and me and a bunch of guys climbed a mountain. And we had a beer at the top.
It's a great story, yeah.
There's just no way that I would climb the mountain next year and open up a bubble water. There's just no way.
You don't think that'd be as satisfying?
I just don't see myself wanting to do that.
You know what's interesting is that, and I don't think I've ever even shared this with you, but in the same way where you've kind of identified situations where you're like, yeah, I think alcohol would be appropriate for you. I've identified situations where I've said, you know what, alcohol is not a good idea for me in these situations. And that's almost always if I'm around family or friends that I'm uber comfortable with and I'm not driving anywhere, aka I'm in my house. Then I don't have that like, oh, I gotta drive. I shouldn't have that second
boundary.
or third glass of wine, right?
Interesting.
So it's less about, that's how I have thought through this. And so when I thought about, okay, well, I'm going on this trip and I'm not driving anywhere, I'm going to be with people I really enjoy being around, it would be a really, really smart practice to abstain from drinking alcohol for me personally. And I don't know, I'm like so excited. I don't think that
Current update for me. I feel outstanding.
physically.
Yeah, I haven't drank alcohol in a long time. I've been working out a ton. I've been running a lot. I've been eating super clean, and my body just feels great. Now, again, I was preparing and training for a marathon. So I guess what I'm telling all the guys and gals out there,
Guys and gals.
right?
I like that.
Go train for a marathon. And
set an athletic
that
goal.
would be the best reset button I can think of. Holy smokes! There's really not that much room for error. I feel like when you run a marathon, because it is going to expose so many gaps.
Yeah.
In your fitness and
I'm
physical
amazed.
ability.
I watched so many people cross that finish. I'm just amazed by all the people that did that. Even if you're in the half, I think it's wild. Yeah. For me, I think my current update is the biggest impact I've seen on my health in the last 3 months is regulating my glucose. I think cutting out alcohol probably helped, but like I feel like a different person, really. And so
if people are wondering, what do you drink? Well, we drink coffee. We drink tea, all very clean. I drink my chai tea. I'll put a little bit of, if you haven't had the Hazelmeyer Goods chai tea, by the way.
don't talk about it because it'll sell out again.
Okay.
But
I do put okay.
You like maple syrup. I like cane sugar.
This is a treat for me.
I have no fear of cane sugar.
I put a little bit of sweetener and some raw milk in my chai tea.
A latte.
It's like drinking graham crackers. I don't know how else to explain.
You always use that as it.
Tastes like graham crackers to me. Anyways, we're drinking tea. We're drinking coffee. I don't put anything in my coffee. I drink black.
Same.
And I basically have like 1 cup, maybe 2, a day, and that's for more of like a caffeine reason. But I do really enjoy coffee, and so sometimes if I had more coffee, I'll have decaf.
Yeah.
You like to start with decaf and then move into caffeine.
Yeah, I like to delay my caffeine intake to about 1.5 to 2 hours, but you don't always follow that.
Well, so I do delay mine that time typically, but then I like to start with the first cup being caffeine, and then I can drink decaf the rest of the day.
Yeah, just different preferences.
Well, it's perfect because we share our coffee pot, so woohoo. Anyways,
do you feel bored without eating junk food or consuming the occasional glass of wine?
No, I don't.
You don't?
We're drinking sparkling water.
Oh, we should have brought that bottle down. I can never pronounce it. It's German and it's so good, and it actually has high mineral content.
Sparkling mineral water has been something that we've been enjoying. So it's almost like, I don't know, would you call this like the Nicorette gum of people that would enjoy alcohol, the sparkling mineral water?
It is a nice replacement because it's effervescent. It's got a little bub to it, a little texture.
Feels like a treat. You're cracking open a bottle.
Feels like a treat.
Sometimes I'll drink it in a wine glass. That's not really because
the wine glass on your
right here
on your little table over there. Yeah, I mean, I do think that was helpful for us. Like when we cut out the occasional cocktail or glass of wine, I felt like I wanted something other than just plain filtered water.
And so I basically drink water, sparkling water, coffee, and tea. Do I drink anything else? Sometimes I would have
you might have like an electrolyte drink after you train.
After training, yeah. But that's about it.
Yeah. It's a good life, though.
It is a good life. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, and I'm sure you did, because we talked about things like organic foods alcohol and sugar.
I feel like this is a risky episode.
I feel like it's kind of a... I feel like people... So here's the thing. I just really don't want people to feel judgment about the alcohol one because I don't have...
Oh, I'm really looking forward to a glass of wine I eventually drink.
I don't have any like qualms against the substance other than the fact that I know for me, if I drink it, I feel worse. That's just how it is. Can it be fun? Absolutely. Does it make me feel like I have improved my life or my health? Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's like I can't take it any further than that. So that's kind of where my decision's been thus far.
Let's do a quick recap of all things, right? Because hop back to the organic thing. Essentially, choosing between organic produce and conventional produce, at the end of the day, buy produce. If it comes down to budget, oh my goodness, the fresh produce, buy it. It's nourishing and have no guilt or shame. The same way I'm like, consume your cane sugar. It's less about the actual thing and more about how we're eating it, right?
If you can find your produce from a farm that you trust, that has practices that you would agree with, that is the number one way. Straight up. If you are like us and you can find some things from a farm, which we try to find as much as we can from our farm, we do. We absolutely do. We hunt. We're sourcing our beef from farmers that we know, from cows that we've met. We are trying to find pork and chicken. We're constantly kind of on the like grocery hunt in addition to actually hunting. But sometimes we have to supplement. And by sometimes I mean frequently, we have to supplement with grocery store trips.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we don't claim to be homesteaders.
When we roll into the grocery store to find groceries for ourselves, we're trying to do the best we can. And you know what? We are at the will. We can't. What are we supposed to do? Walk up to the manager of Kroger and say, "This produce isn't good enough." I mean, you go to Fresh Time, Kroger, Whole Foods. You go all these places looking for the best produce you possibly can.
Piggly Wiggly,
Publix, right? Wherever you're going. And we're trying to find the best kinds of produce and or groceries that we can. And sometimes that means we are reaching for the organic foods. Sometimes we are reaching for foods that do not have an organic label on them, i.e. your example of pineapple. I don't think I've ever seen an organic pineapple.
Not at our Kroger.
I will say, though, you made a comment about bananas. Organic bananas are typically pretty cheap. So I'm typically going organic bananas.
I'm always getting the organic bananas. But even beyond produce, right? Because the organic conversation is so much bigger than that. Organic does not equal inherently healthy. You can get the organic box of crackers and you're still better off buying the eggs. Or you can get the organic candy and you're still better off buying the conventional
It's okay that
fruit.
you want crackers, right? It's like, hey, I want to have crackers in the house. But identifying organic crackers as something that you can eat with zero like fear of it potentially spiking, like it is a cracker.
Mm-hmm. It
is not providing your body with, a ton of nourishing vitamins or minerals or proteins. It is not. It is just kind of like an empty carb.
Yeah, organic can have a halo effect.
Yes.
On food.
Sugar, we talked about kind of trying to organize the way you eat your foods. Don't eat sugar in excess. We still recapping here?
Yeah, I think that was all three.
And alcohol. We're off the alcohol game for now. And YouTube channel. You can find us there now. Maybe you're seeing us there now. Is this going on YouTube?
I assume. I don't know.
What's the YouTube handle?
That's changing, so don't ask me in this present moment.
We will link the YouTube channel in the show notes.
Yes, we will. For all those listening.
Find the YouTube channel.
Yes, we will.
So you can watch us doing this.
So you don't have to hear Joey repeat it 5 times.
Yeah, she's just not going to tell me what it is so that I can't repeat it.
That's a good strategy.
All right. Well, here we are. You can find us on Instagram.
Yeah.
If you didn't see enough of us on this video screen, you could see us on Instagram. I'm at Joey Hazelmeyer. Elizabeth's at Liz Hazelmeyer. Homegrown. We have a Homegrown account. The very account that we made books like this on. Again, June 15th, last chance to get these sorts of things.
In physical format.
Homegrown Education, Homegrown_education. That's the Instagram handle. You can find these products on homegrowneducation.org website.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a store that we sell awesome stuff, things that you can trust, because we've gone to great lengths to source them in a trustworthy manner.
Some of them are certified organic.
Some of them are certified. Some of them aren't.
Some of them are not.
And you know what? The ones that aren't are doing the things that the certified organic people are as well. They're just a small little farm in Brazil that don't necessarily have the $20,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is dollars to pay the USDA to get a sticker on their package.
Mm.
Or there's protocols that are in place that are irrelevant to them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a nuisance for them to deal with. Anyways.
ShopTheH.com.
We got coffee. We got tea. That chai we were talking about.
Certified organic fair trade.
And it is so freaking good.
It's so good.
It is. I cannot get over it. It is absolutely a treat.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of chai in my life, I feel like.
Yeah, me too. I've always been a chai lover, and
This chai is unbelievable.
really love this chai.
It's unbelievable chai tea.
It is.
The coffee is ridiculous, but we've been drinking it for forever, so it's like less new to me, I feel like.
Yeah, and the body care that we just launched, the peppermint, the exfoliating sponge, I mean, it's like a spa treatment daily or however often you shower, because I don't shower daily.
I know. I'm feeling, I shower daily, or most days, like 6 days a week at least.
How's your skin feel?
It's feeling kind of soft.
I would hope so.
But like, why is that?
Well, this sponge you're using is exfoliating.
So is it the lard soap plus the exfoliation?
And the soap's got
it's just
lard.
pulling off what?
And coconut oil.
It's almost like sandpaper smoothing you out?
It's not sandpaper.
I just don't understand.
Scare them.
I don't know what.
You know what? I would say, like, don't use the sponge on your newborn baby. It's an exfoliating sponge. Like, I meant it when I said it reminds me of the feeling of dry brushing my legs. I almost feel like I get that in my shower, and it's great. By the way, we need to get you a sponge.
It's like a satisfying kind of scratching the itch kind of vibe for me.
I don't want to share a sponge with you anymore.
Get me a sponge.
I need to get you your own sponge.
Get me a sponge. Anyways.
Buy 2 if you're married, because you don't want to share a sponge. Or maybe you do.
Hey, you know what? You do. We have dish care products.
You do share a sponge on that one.
We've got
That's
dish
fair.
care products. We got lard dish soap. Lard dish soap is a game changer.
Oh, I would never go back.
Let's be honest. There's some times where I feel like moving to a more simplistic way of life is less convenient.
Totally.
This is not that. This is like simplify your life, get away from fragrances and synthetic scents for your dishes, and make your life more convenient. Applying soap directly to the apparatus that you are scrubbing your dishes with. Is that the way to say that, you think?
Sure.
The medium, the catalyst. Anyways, whatever you're using to wash your dishes, whether it's you could be using a sponge that we sell.
A brush.
You could be using a brush.
A cloth.
You could be using a cloth. I'm going to keep repeating. But anyways.
All acceptable.
It is so much more convenient to just like grab that block of soap and just kind of suds it up. And then go to town rather than like the whole like squeeze the bottle in there. It's like, are you squeezing it per dish? Are you squeezing the soap on it? And then it's kind of like absorbing in. It's just like a weird. The lard dish soap is fantastic.
It's back to regular soap. I don't think
And
that
it
people
lasts a long time.
I don't think people realize liquid dish soap is liquid dish detergent. It's not true soap. Soap is made from saponified fat. That's what soap is.
Yeah.
And that's what we've used. And then to get a detergent, a really foamy, liquidy substance, with the exception of Castile soap, which is made from plant fats. But liquid dish detergent is got all kinds of stuff in it. Surfactants and all kinds of harsh. Not only, I mean, you can see it. It's a bright blue bottle with the fragrance so powerful, knocks you back, right? So it's
once you get away from the hyper scented soaps in your house, all of a sudden you're gonna walk into a house and it's just gonna smack you in the face. You're like, oh, "What is that?" And someone's gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Washing a plate." And
you asked me if I was wearing perfume one day because I came home from someone's house and I had washed my hands with their hand soap literally 6 hours before.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And you said, "Are you wearing perfume?"
I will say it's becoming a thing because when I go on runs, I'll run by people's houses and like the laundry.
That's a tough one.
Like the dryer sheets, I'm guessing. I don't know. Like I'll run by a house and be like, "Holy smokes!" Outside.
Yeah.
It's
coming
so
out their
much
vent.
scent. It's
I
crazy.
know. I agree.
Anyways,
ShopTheH.com.
find these sorts of things on shoptheh.com. Get your coffee, your tea, your soaps, your sponges. Get yourself some teas. Anything else? What are we missing here?
No, that's it. I mean, obviously today's podcast episode did not have a guest. It was just me and Joe. And if you're a longtime listener, we did a lot of episodes like this in the beginning. And I feel like our summer schedule is going to open opportunity to do a lot
crazy
more.
how many guests we've had
I
lately.
know.
I didn't even think of that.
We recorded with guests for like 8 or 9 straight weeks, multiple guests a day. And so we released a ton of amazing information. But
When's the last time it was just the two of us?
probably when we did our Q&A,
Really? How long ago was that?
like a couple months.
Wow.
So one thing that really helps us on the pod is leaving a review and or a rating. We love hearing your guys' feedback.
I love the grievances about me.
There are some grievances
I
about
do.
you. There's honestly some grievances about me. I have less of a tough exterior, so it's harder for me to take sometimes. But, I understand. I'm trying to understand. So please leave a rating and review. Keep in mind my sensitive heart, but I will read it. And it's the best way to get feedback on a podcast because podcasts.
We do read them. So please let us know. Hey, Joey talks too much. It's like a fair point. We get that. We understand.
Liz is rude or something. I forget what it was, but
All fair points. Anyways,
So
thanks for
rating
listening,
review.
and we'll catch you all next time.